And we are live. Yeah. Hello. Hello out there in the live streaming verse. Oh, Sujay, hello.
Hello.
Excellent. You are sideways, just so you know.
Sideways. Oh, like they only
there we go.
Huh?
So I thought we would begin. Before the introduction, I like to do something physical. And since this is Skin Hunger Self-Care Coping Mechanism Day, I thought we would start with holding our hearts. I like to do my left hand over my heart, my right hand over my left hand. And take 10 deep breaths together to land. I'm a little floaty, so I need to land too. Inhale. Exhale, 1. Inhale. Exhale, 2. Inhale. Exhale, 3. Inhale. Exhale, 4. Inhale. Exhale, 5. Inhale. Exhale, 6. Inhale. Exhale, 7. Inhale. Exhale, 8. Inhale. Exhale, 9. Inhale. Exhale, 10. Thank you. When I'm feeling really anxious, this is how I start my falling asleep process, how I get myself to settle. So for those who are watching out there in the live verse who may not be with us and may not know these things, I'll do a little introduction. My name is Lila. I'm a student of human connection. Devin, our wizard friend, called me an intimacy inquirer, and I think that's pretty apt and pretty accurate. In terms of physical touch, I'm a physical touch love language person. I have been self-soothing my whole life as far as I can remember. And when I was at summer camp in the summer of 1995, my nickname was Huggy Bear. So that gives you an idea of how much I love to touch people and to be touched, but only consensually and only when I want it, because I'm kind of a cat that way and very picky. These things in my life that have been really important to me have all involved physical touch. Theater school, physical theater, acro yoga that I used to do and teach, tango, which was my art for 3 years or so, Thai body work that up until recently was part of my profession. And I'm the host of Horizontal with Lila, which is a podcast recorded while lying down right next to somebody, shoulder to shoulder. I have a question for those of us who are here live, and that is, and you may still be getting these touches, but I am not. So what is the touch that you miss the most? Or if you're getting plenty of touches, then, what is the touch you want more of? And you can share your name. I'm Lila, and the touch that I miss the most is being the little spoon for a man who wraps me up. And this moment, like right after the wrap, when it's the pull in, and you're like, I then a sigh on that one. I miss that a lot. We can give snaps if you want for an answer. Elena?
Can you come back to me? I have
There
to
we go.
think. Can you come back to me?
Yes, I can circle back. Tiana or Jay? Sujay?
Family, husband, and 2 daughters. So I'm getting lost in touch. But what I'm missing is just like sweaty body, like dancing in a room full of sweaty bodies. That kind of casual touch of maybe a hand like held up as you walk by, and just that little like.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I miss both of those things. Being cuddled up and pulled into. I cuddle my stuffies, so I'm a big spoon a lot. And I guess I've been self-soothing myself, so I haven't mistouched that much. But just like wrapping myself in like fuzzy blankets and things, or like zipping my onesie all the way up. But yeah, I think being at a party, yeah, dancing, feeling the energy of other people like that. Oh, can you hear me?
Is somebody typing? If someone is typing, we can hear you typing, and you might want to mute. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think just being around a lot of people and people energy, that I miss that kind of. So it's not really touch. I just miss being around a bunch of people and being lost in a crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still hearing it. This like tap 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 noise.
Maybe
Is
Jay?
it you?
I don't hear
I hear it too.
anything.
I hear it. No, I don't.
Oh, excellent. Very good. Would anybody else like to answer? Anybody want to answer in the comments? Steph, Margarita, Daniela, John?
I also with Tiana, so my primary love language is words of affirmation. My primary to give is touch. So I feel like for me, I miss holding people. So I really enjoy being big spoon. I've been big spooning my pillows, and I have a weighted blanket, and I have a lot of things that have been comforting me, but I really like to just wrap my body around somebody and kind of just nestle myself into their butt. Like for my partners, not my not clients. But, I have a snuggle friend, occasional lover who has just the nicest booty to kind of curl up behind. So I like big spooning.
That's lovely. So something's going on with somebody's microphone, and we're hearing a lot of like and brushing and tapping. Ooh, whatever happened, that was great. Excellent. So John says, I miss rope touch, and I'm going to mispronounce this because I think it's in Japanese. Semanawa. Semanawa. Beautiful. Snaps for that. I wanted to open with some premises of this conversation and these ideas before we get to the presentation part. What's skin hunger? What is it? And this is how I am defining it in the simplest terms for myself. The craving feeling we get with 1, the lack of physical contact, 2, not enough physical contact, or 3, poor quality physical contact, or what I would call junk food physical contact. As I said, I'm a physical touch and quality time love language person. So I'm particularly affected by a quarantine moment or a quarantine era. And I'm thinking about the babies, the study done on the babies who were not held and how they failed to thrive. And I'm doing okay because I have some space and some sun, so I feel a lot healthier than I would be if I were in my tiny little postage stamp of a room in New York. But there is certainly a part of my soul that is not thriving with the lack of physical contact. My parents are similar, and they are both alone. They are both 78, and they are both isolated in their homes. My father in upstate New York and my mother in Florida. My dad has said in many, many conversations long before this, he has said to me so many times, people forget that the elderly need to be touched too. Nobody touches the elderly. And he says it's so important. My dad was a child psychologist in the New York City school system. And he says, it's so important to have just like a touch on the shoulder or a pat on the back, or like even a handshake. I feel like people are really missing even that very small and distant physical contact. And my mom is really in a bad way. She already has, she's manic depressive. She already is extremely, extremely lonely. And she is suffering greatly right now. Every time I talk to her, she says in Portuguese, ninguém chega perto. She says, no one will come near. No one will come near me. And when somebody comes to maybe drop something off for her, they leave it on the porch. And she understands intellectually why this needs to happen, but she's also taking it feels very personal to her, right? It feels like her neighbors won't come close to her, and it's about her. Even though she knows that it's not, right? It feels like it's about her. No one will come close to me. And every time she says it, my heart breaks. No one will come close to me. I read this quote the other day that I think is a beautiful thing to throw into our premises. And it's by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves. I'm not sure if it's from that book, but it's, if you cannot make something better or different, then make it holy. If you cannot make something better or different, then make it holy. Like, I can't really make this world situation better. I can do little things, but I can't, fix the whole thing. And I can't make it different either. But I can do things like these self-touch techniques that we're about to talk about to make it reverent, to make it holy with myself. I think human-to-human contact for me it's a recipe with no exact substitution. You cannot substitute the rice flour for the wheat flour. There's like nothing that goes directly into the recipe that feels like somebody else's skin touching my skin. But that's not possible for many of us right now. So if I'm going to continue with this metaphor, you got to cook with what you got. And if we're cooking with what we've got, then for many of us, the ingredients we have are our phones, our laptops, our bodies, our hands, pillows, and, household objects and sex toys. And there's one more premise I want to bring up before we get into Elena's presentation, and that is the idea, and I think that Margarita can corroborate this scientifically from her trauma studies, that our body does not distinguish, the body itself, the mind distinguishes, but the body itself does not distinguish between me touching myself and somebody else touching me. The sensation that is elicited in the body is not separate, is not distinguishable. And so we can cultivate, and how might we elicit some of those sensations that we would usually seek from another touch. So those are the premises with which let us embark upon this conversation and these journey of presentations. And first I'm going to invite Elena, who is a professional cuddler and has been so for many years now, and has started doing a few virtual cuddling sessions. And I have never thought of trying to do anything like a virtual cuddling session. I didn't think that that was possible. So she's expanding my mind to the possibilities, and I thought she might be able to share how you would set that up, how you would curate it, what the format might be. But she's gonna need to unmute herself before that happens. Still muted. I will say that her Instagram is Elena Snuggles, and she is also on the Cuddlist website, listed on the Cuddlist website. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I redid it. So hi everyone, my name is Elena. On Cuddlist, I go by Ellen. And so yes, I've been a professional cuddler now for almost 3.5 years. I've done close to 1,900 hours of cuddle sessions. I work with people oh, we lost Lila. I'll just keep talking now, but I work with people from all different backgrounds, gender orientations, sexualities, races, religions, age, people from all over the world and from very different cultures and experiences. One thing that's really fascinating to me is the universal need for touch, and that there are so many people who are not getting their touch needs met, and that can look very different for different people. Being in Brooklyn, I serve a lot of the Orthodox and Hasidic Jewish community. That there's a big base of my clients because they are not allowed to receive touch. They're not allowed to, they're not, it's just not in their culture to do so. So there are many people who I come into contact with who will go months, even years without even getting a hug. So now in the COVID touch in the time of COVID, I have been switching gears into offering virtual sessions for my clients, and that can range from meditation. Sometimes we'll just FaceTime, watch TV together if that's what we normally do in our sessions. And I also offer empathic listening, as a lot of people are, there's an emotional component to the sessions, not just the physical touch. I have a weighted blanket, and I have a lot of things that have intimacy and connection involved in the session. And so I'm also now starting to offer these virtual cuddle sessions, which at first I was a little like, how is this going to work? Would anyone even want to do this? It's weird. I don't know. But I was able to explore this with one of my regular clients, and it felt actually very, very seamless, and very, very supportive and unique experience. So the way that I have been guiding it has been just kind of sinking into, like we did the deep breaths earlier, and just starting off with a meditation. And that's usually what I do with any client whenever, especially new clients who are coming in who are anxious, nervous. They're like, I'm about to touch a stranger. This is totally weird. Yes, it's completely weird. So I try to just start with meditation and just get the client to do some deep breathing, get out of their head and into their body. And once they're out of their head and into their body, you can start to be more receptive to the benefits of the session and the cuddling. And so for this virtual session, we would start with a guided breathing meditation. And as we're breathing, once I see that the client is comfortable and we're just, then I'll kind of move into a guided self-touch. And what I recommend, something that I've noticed for myself, is when I'm using my fingertips, just like kind of my fingertips or like the sides of my fingers, not like my palm, like this kind of touch, but just very gentle not applying too much pressure, it almost feels like somebody else is doing it. And so I'll continue to just guide with the breathing, and then they can just do the breathing on their own, and just start by running the hands just wherever feels good. One place that I really like to do is the neck and like the base of the skull. And some people like their hair being touched, and so I just use just guiding them just to bring the fingers in through the hair and not touching the scalp, but just once again using very light, very intentional, and really using that breathing, just deep breathing. Inhale, exhale, and you can close your eyes while you're doing it. And already, like, I'm already starting to like purr right now from like just really feeling the gentle stroking and just keeping with that breathing. And this is something that I started doing for myself a couple weeks ago, just naturally, like at night when I was trying to calm myself down to go to bed. I feel like this is a very stressful, anxious time for a lot of people. And so at night, like I would even start to talk to myself a bit and just like say really sweet things to myself, like have like it's a little weird, but having like pillow talk to myself, and I don't know, just like complimenting myself on, because I'm a words of affirmation person. So it's like, oh, your Prince costume was really sexy today, whatever, whatever the thing I was working on, or just something that made me feel really comforted and like really really good about myself. And this one thing I wanted to mention, I went to an ecstatic dance in San Diego, and then I guess I'll wrap up at the time if I don't know how we're doing on time, but
let's make sure we finish your session, the other steps. So you said meditation, guided breathing first, and then the guided self-touch. Is there a way that you wrap up? Is there a climax to it?
Yeah, so pretty much coming out of it, I always like to leave a little bit of extra time at the end of all my sessions, virtual or non-virtual, just to allow the client to, just check in with them, see how they're doing, anything that might be coming up for them, and just giving them a moment to, drink some water and to just share any reflections of anything that's come up for them. I kind of start to just slow down the self-touch, and usually after a little bit of the self-touch, they kind of just glide into a bit of like this very meditative state and just want to kind of rest, and we'll both like lay down on pillows with the video cam like each other, so we're kind of just like laying down next to each other and just like, hey, how you doing, how you feel? Usually they're just really blissed out. I'm like, good. Just giving a little bit of time to come back and then close off the session. One thing I wanted to mention, I went to this ecstatic dance out in San Diego where this person did this guided moving meditation, and she said, you're going to build so much oxytocin in this next hour. And basically what we were doing was we were dancing and we were doing the movement, but we were touching ourselves. We were, but in this very like moving to the music. So moving in this very intentional rhythm, like very rhythmic way. And I swear I felt like I was rolling on ecstasy by the end of that hour. Like I really could feel that sensation of the oxytocin just like building in my body just from being in my body, touching my body in a way that felt really yummy. And I just felt really, really good. And oxytocin is, the love hormone, the love chemical that gets released during cuddling. It also gets released during sex, and also during breastfeeding for women. And it helps bond the person to the other person, whether it be their mate or their child. And so, but it also makes you feel really, really, really good. But this is something that thankfully we can produce in ourselves. So whether this is something that you would like to do with a partner, and I think, you know, once you I feel like the meditation really just gets you out of that weird, this is weird, I don't know how I feel about this. And, you know, that's something that you can do either with a partner, or several partners. You could do a group cuddle Zoom. You could do a Zoom call. That's an idea, or a solo cuddle.
Do you ever have them hug a pillow, you know, like pretending, or pack their back to be the little spoon, or something like that?
I haven't explored that yet. That's something that, you know, that's something that I recommend as an option. Like I say, like, get comfortable. If you'd like, you know, some of my clients use weighted blankets or body pillows. The client I had done the session with had a body pillow, like a large, like human-sized body pillow on the way in the mail. So maybe next time we would incorporate that into the session. But yeah, it's kind of a new frontier as we're kind of adapting to this new world that we're in right now. So
I like that you do a little download and a little aftercare. I think that's one of the things that I appreciated whenever I read about the practice of oming, was that there was always a time afterward to say, oh, I noticed this came to my attention, this is how that felt to me, I experienced this. And I think in a lot of, you know, for instance, I had a great video sex session with a friend, let's say a week or two ago, and we did not then say, how was that for you? You know, like, what, when did you feel, or what did you feel, and where did you feel it? You know, we didn't do that download. So I think it's nice to have that as a container, as a practice.
Yeah, I think so. Mama Gina talks about doing, sharing gratitudes and reflections as a way to digest an experience. I think that when you're having such an intense experience, especially where you're building oxytocin, it's intimate. Even if it's over video, it's still a very intimate experience. And to have that aftercare, and to really, but with the Mama Gina, the reflections, because it allows you to, just feel express the gratitude of what you experienced, and have that space to share that. And I feel like that really solidifies and completes the experience. And so just leaving in this, like, oh, I feel it really high, and you're kind of you're a little up in the air, helps to ground the experience. So you can still feel yummy and all the good things, and but you're not, it ties it up in a nicely.
Puts a bow on it. Thank you so much, Elena.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So good.
I'm going to move into sharing some self-massage, self-holds, and self-soothing techniques. I like to name things because for me it makes them easier to remember. So these names are not official. These are the names that I decided to call these things so that I could remember them, and so that they might be more sticky for your memories as well. And I'd love it if there was anybody else out there in the audience who wanted to cam up and try these self-holds and self-massage techniques. For the self-holds, this framing is fine. For the self-massage, you will need a little bit of space, and you would want to be on a bed or on the floor. So can I get somebody to join in? Margarita, perhaps, who was co-hosting with me? Margarita, I summon you.
Does somebody
I'll
sing
take an Orion. Hello, Orion.
I'm walking, so I won't be able to do these things. But I love to, and I'm excited to see. I just want to say hi. I'll pop out. Yeah, right.
Hi from the streets of New York.
All the love.
All the love to you. Thanks for saying hi. So nice to see your face. All right, so I'm going to invite somebody to cam up who wants to try these. Well, I was trying to step him down. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I saw these on Instagram, in a little Instagram video, these self holds. And the first one is the one that I'm going to call the lover. So they call it a side cranial hold, but that is just not as sticky or exciting for me. But to think of this as the lover feels so good. I don't like to cover my ears. I like to go under my ears with my thumb and just like hug my earlobes and then have my fingers really gentle, curved around the side of my skull. The lover. As though I am my own lover. And then I'll call this one, hey Margay, the crown. They called it a front to back cranial hold. I don't, I think that's a little technical. So I think you'll also remember that it wraps around the front and the back if you think of it as the crown. I also find this to be very close to a power pose, an Amy Cuddy power pose, right? So it feels a bit like victory, and it feels a bit like this one where you're leaning back in the chair, but there's also this mothering element to the crown. Oh, I'm really liking this one. And I think the thing is that we have to give these time. We might start with something and we're like, okay, did that, and we've done it for 10 seconds. But it takes time to affect our nervous system, to settle into something. I know it takes me time to settle into the touch of a lover. So taking time with ourselves. And I'm thinking about making a date, just like you would make a massage appointment, making an appointment to hold yourself for a certain amount of time, making an appointment to massage yourself for a certain amount of time. Let's call this one Mama. Jay, I'm pretty sure it's you with the sound. So you can mute maybe. Or maybe it's like moving. I think maybe it's the phone or the device moving. Forehead to heart. Mama. Because for me, it feels like taking your temperature and putting Vicks Vapor Rub on your chest. I think this next one is the one that most of us are familiar with. So I'll call it yoga. One hand on the heart, one hand on the belly. We often do this when we're lying on our backs at the end of a practice. I think it's also interesting to practice it upright. I also feel myself wanting to sway a little bit, and I don't push away any of those impulses. When they come, I want to follow them, follow the train. And the last one here that I have, I'm going to call I've Got You. And it's solar plexus, above the navel, below the breast line, and back of the head. You can either do neck or you can do the base of the skull, whatever feels more supportive. I'm feeling like the neck. The neck feels good to me. This also reminds me of how I found myself holding myself after a DMT trip. And that is what I said to myself. I've got you. I've got you. I think many of us have a history of abandoning ourselves, dissociating, numbing, being unkind internally, the inner critic being really loud. And so for me, being able to affirm, I've got you. I am always there for you. I will always show up is really powerful. Thank you for experimenting with these self-holds with me. And I have now a more active sequence for you of self-massage. I'm going to travel to puzzle mat land. Oh, Kalina really liked them. I'm so glad. I couldn't find a yoga mat, so I bought puzzle mats. This one requires that I take out my hair. Nobody else has to do it, but I'm going to do it. So I like to start, even when I teach a yoga class, I often start from feet to head and go to head, or head down to feet. So I'm going to start with head. And one of my favorites is shampoo with the pads of the fingers, not the nails. And I like to really get as much pressure as I can get in my circly shampoo-iness. I do. I also really love going around the occiput, the round bones at the base of the skull. Sometimes these are called your thinking bones. So if you are an overthinker, you might notice a lot of tension around those areas. Oh, Orion says he remembers learning some of those holds in massage school. Oh, I love shampooing. I have 2 more hair things that will work only if you have hair. So the shampooing works for everyone. These next 2 only work if you have hair. So I love my hair to be pulled. It's one of my kinky pleasures. So I can pull my own hair, threading your fingers through at the scalp, and then making a fist. I like to make a really tight fist because I like the of it. Threading through all the way at the scalp and making a fist. I'm gonna do one more at the back with both hands, threading both through from underneath and making a fist. Oh, I'm loving these. The other one that I have is to take all of the hair, and twisting it. And then once it all feels gathered together, one extra twist. How does it feel? Do you like this one? And now you have a bun. Then let's move down to the temples. I'm going to call this one a visor. You can interlace your fingers, use your thumbs, and then massage around the temples. I just generally like a lot of pressure. So pulling on the interlaced fingers helps me to put more pressure into my thumbs with less effort. And I also try to remind myself to relax my shoulders, because as I raise my arms, the tendency is for me to tense up my shoulders. Pretty similarly, we can make our way down, but as we start to separate the hands, this feels more like Vogue to me. So I'm going to call this one Vogue. Feel free to pose as well. Another thing I want to share here, less voguey, less hot looking, but really powerful, is this pinning technique. So I find a tender spot. I have a really tender spot right in the middle of the jaw here, and I pin the muscle and then move the joint. So I'm oh, I could cry. I'm pressing on the tight spot of the muscle and then moving the joint around. I can do this here at the pec. I can do it on the traps, top of the shoulder. And in this case, I'm using a rock climbing kind of hand to pull down and then rotate the joint. So pinning the muscle and rotating the joint is an incredibly powerful self-massage technique. Let's also knead some dough on the shoulders. And I like to go all the way up the side of the neck. Sometimes, if I'm lucky, I can get chills. I can give myself chills if I roll over the muscles, not this way, not up and down, but side to side really quickly. With some pressure, I can give myself chills that go up into my head. I really enjoy that. Going to move the kneading down the arms, rolling around the bone of the upper arm in a circular knead. I put pressure down on the fingers and then roll. Grab and roll, grab and roll, grab and roll. And I'm rolling my thumb across the bicep and crossways, not this way, but crossways. And that also gives me that intensity that I really enjoy. For the forearms, you can do this with your shin or you can do this with your other forearm. So I'm going to use the back of the forearm close to the elbow, but not on the elbow joint. And I'm going to use it like a rolling pin. So I'll start with the soft, tender part of my arm pointing down and then roll out. You know you're doing it if your fingers start to curl up as you roll down the arm, and then you can move incrementally down the arm. I wouldn't roll across the wrist joint. So I would go not on the elbow joint, just below it, and then lean in. You can use your body weight instead of having to use so much pressure from your shoulders. If you lift your butt up and you let your body weight come forward to give the pressure to the rolling pin. I'm going to do the other forearm so I feel a little bit more balanced. Rolling. I like it when it makes my fist curl up involuntarily. I think that's really fun. If you're flexible enough, you might be able to do this with your shin, and it's a lot more pressure. So only if you really wanted a lot more pressure would you try that. Let's see, can you see it? Yeah. Oh, it's intense. It's super, super intense. Okay. I have a similar sort of rolling pin situation that you can do for your calves. You will use the shin of one side to massage the calf on the other side. So I'll take my shin and put it on the calf. It's a very similar technique. On the calf, really close to the knee crease, but not on the joint, not on the joint at all. And then I'm gonna start to sit back to give pressure, and then it will also roll out towards the towards the foot. It's so intense. And then I inch my way, inch by inch. I go down the calf. And I usually tell my students when I teach this in a yoga class that there's certainly going to be a point at which it will speak to you and say things. And if you can go back there and hang out, you can try side to side. If you rock yourself from side to side, you can take some pressure off, by the way, by putting some pressure on your hands. If you want more pressure, you take less pressure on your hands or arms. You can go side to side. You can also try circles. If you roll in a circle, you might be able to go over that most intense point, but with less time, I might be able to handle it a little bit better. I'm just gonna switch it up to the other side. You can also sit back. Another option is to actually sit, just crossing your shin over your calf and sitting back. I prefer to do it more massage style and use the shin as the massage tool and be kneading the dough of my calves. I feel like people forget they have calves until they try something like this. And the last thing I want to show you in this self-massage sequence is a similar thing, but only with your feet. So the top of my right foot, I'm going to put onto the sole of my left foot. So top of my right foot, the soft part of the sole of my left foot, and I'm going to sit back on that. And you can sit up if you like after you've created that. And then I like to lean back. I lean back and then I wiggle and twist, go from side to side. And so I'm using that right top of the foot on the sole of the left foot in order to give it a massage. Switching sides here, the top of my left foot on the sole of my right foot, and then sitting back. I usually go for the center, and then also I try to put more pressure on the inside edge of the foot because I'm most tender on this inside edge. Most of us are. The plantar fascia tends to be very tender. And then after I release, I usually give my feet some aftercare. And I will make circles on the inside edges of the soles of my feet and go down towards the inside of the big toe. Yay! Thus concludes our self-massage technique. I think that took about 10 minutes. I feel better. I don't know about you, but I feel better. And now I want to invite my gorgeous Glittersaurus friend, my kink maven, cannabis expert, pro dom, glorious model person to share with us about masturbation. Welcome, Tiana.
Hi. That was awesome. I definitely feel better.
Yay!
Yes, thank you for such a lovely intro, Lila.
My pleasure. Can you do me a favor and turn down your volume a little because I can hear myself echoing?
Yes. Is that better?
I think it is.
Okay.
Oh,
No?
I'll just mute myself and we'll let you talk.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Tiana, aka Glittosaurus Rex. And I have not really shared masturbation with strangers before, outside of like loverships. So when Lila asked me to do this, I was like, okay, let's do this. I guess when I first started masturbating, I had like a lot of shame around it because I was sharing a small 1-bedroom apartment with my mom. And so, you know, your mom can walk into the bedroom anytime because it's also technically her bedroom too. And so I actually learned how to masturbate on my stomach. And that's kind of still my go-to way of masturbating, especially when I'm by myself. As I've gotten older and then started being more sexually explorative, especially with other partners, I never really masturbated, like mutually masturbated with anyone, or like when a partner is like, oh, I want to see how you touch yourself, I didn't show them how I actually touched myself because I felt shameful and embarrassed by, you know, being the weirdo that masturbates on her stomach instead of like, you know, legs open on your back, you know, head, you know, back and all of that, like you see in porn and movies and stuff. So I basically had to like relearn how to touch myself and pleasure myself in a way that I felt was socially acceptable. Um, and so I told Lila that I have like my public way of masturbating and then my private way of masturbating. Um, when she was talking about this topic, it was like, yeah, we all kind of have like the way that you do it is kind of the way that you continue to do it, like like throughout the years, and that's definitely been the case for me. And now that I have less shame about my masturbation and like how I do it, I mostly, instead of using my hands, I'll use like a vibrator, like this little wand. Hitachi wand is also great, but also like kind of super intense. So I have to like be careful because when I was using a Hitachi, I would like literally like use it till my clit was numb. Like I could not like just masturbate for that long, like for just like literally hours, that like by the end of it my whole genitals are just like numb. And so I've kind of had to like, you know, play with different toys. So this one is like a lot a lower battery and like wattage than a Hitachi, which is great because I can enjoy oral pleasure more. Because with the Hitachi, I just like oral was not doing it for me. Like it's like, oh, that's sweet, thank you for offering that, but can we, you know, do something else because this, you're doing it for you, not really for me. Um, so now I have like the tools to communicate and say like, oh, I do enjoy oral, but like in this way. And actually what I really enjoy is like giving oral while I pleasure myself. So that's my new sort of like foreplay, is like giving head to whichever bodied partner that I'm with, and then I use my vibrator to just sort of like get off and have orgasms with them, you know, while we're like all pleasuring each other. So that way they don't feel bad that like they're only receiving and, you know, not really giving, but it's just like, no, this is how you give me pleasure, is by letting me take care of myself and like service you at the same time. So that's been like I just learned that like a few months ago, guys. Like so it's brand new of me actually trying to like practice that. So Lila said to give a little demonstration of how I like to masturbate. So I'm just going to sort of, I wasn't really sure how to do this. So bear with me. But I'm thinking this is probably the best angle for it. And so, yeah, so I just turn on the vibrator first, and then I'll just kind of like set it down. Should move this. Set it down underneath me. I don't know if you can see. That I'm having a hard time navigating it. Yes. And so basically, I don't know if you can see the vibrator, but it's just right there. My laptop's falling. Right underneath me. And I just sort of like wiggle around on it, and I'll go in circles or like literally like hump it. Or like sometimes I'll just kind of like jam it into my clit if I'm like really coming super hard. So yeah, that's my masturbation techniques. Thanks, guys.
Yay! Thank you so much for sharing. I was thinking that it might be great for us in our self-love masturbation practices to try some things that we maybe usually only do with partners, or try some techniques that we don't usually do, because if it's not wired into our muscle memory, it's likely to feel more like it's somebody else and feel unfamiliar. For instance, masturbating with my left hand is just like, it's like this alien. It's like, not an alien. It's like this, it's like very, it does not feel like me. I'm not used to it. It's so different. And I learned how to masturbate by sticking my butt under the faucet in the bathtub, and by using the massage jets at the public pool. So my experience of masturbation is always like this, is always either with my legs up or but it's always on my back. So for me to flip and be on my belly would feel completely different. I also never use a vibrator. I never use vibration. For me, it's way too intense on the clit to have that direct vibration. However, I could use it on the inner thigh muscles. I could use it on the outer lips. I don't have to put it directly on my clit. And so that would feel more like, oh, I'm engaging with something that is not my usual. So it feels a bit more satisfying as not necessarily just me. Not necessarily just me.
Yeah, you can also put a sock over the vibrator. That's to sort of like dampen the vibrations a bit. That's something that I've done in the past. Or like James Orion, sorry, Orion, that was on here earlier. He has a Hitachi, so when I'm at his place, I don't bring my little vibe, but so I have to kind of like muffle the Hitachi, because like going back to it, my body's like, whoa, ooh, like can't handle it. So covering it with something helps like dampen the intensity a little bit. But yeah, indirectly using it is a great idea.
I think another way to make our masturbation a little bit different or a little bit more satisfying maybe in these times would be to have somebody else tell us what to do. We could incorporate a little bit of a DS or a director performer dynamic into it. And I have heard from multiple people, as I was doing a little bit of a poll about video sex, that is a very satisfying thing. And it's also very helpful if somebody is hesitant, if somebody feels a little bit less comfortable, to be told, to be ordered what to do can be very relaxing, right? They can go into a subspace, headspace. I think I'm going to do an entire show on video sex, but now is not it, because we are we are at the 1 hour mark. and I have a wee outro, and then I'll close the broadcast. And then for those of us who are here, we can still hang and chat, and any secrets you wanted to share but didn't want to be out on the broadcast in the universe, you can share them then. Also, Jay, if you had any wisdom to share, now would be the time. Jay's writing an article about this topic, right? About skin hunger, about how people are getting their touch needs met in isolation.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a ton of questions, really, wondering about like, what is the touch that we're missing? I loved your opening question. What do we miss the most? And I think there's so many touches that we don't think about during the day, that we know, we don't know anything about the absence of them. We only know, like, from studies that a touch on the arm can affect your outcome on a medical test, or like a surgery, or people perform better on tests with touch. So, but like, what is that absence doing? Can we measure that? Is it like, and we're talking about skin hunger. I think we all intuitively know what it is, but what, like, scientifically, what is it? And I'm also just really curious too about, like, are we compensating? Have we been compensating all along for our skin hunger in ways? Do we stimulate ourselves in other ways through food or screen time or whatever? Like, I mean, how much, if like, just like that nourishment, if like we were really nourishing ourselves, would we be changing our habits? And so I'm really curious about what this time is going to bring. Are we going to come out of this with different habits? Are we going to come out of this with, I mean, what's the legacy of this? Are we never going to shake hands ever again? Are we never going to be like, just, casually, like, kiss a stranger? Like, or do that with the sense of abandon that we've been able to do. And so I'm thinking a lot about, like, how we come out of this. And also having kids. I have 2 teenage daughters, and I've always been curious about how much they're being touched during the day, like how much casual contact they have with their friends, just a pat on the back or braiding hair or something. And now their only touch contact is with me or with each other. And I've seen them, like, they're wrestling all the time now. They don't really have, like, ways to touch each other that they feel like it'd be like a big deal for them to cuddle up with each other, even though, like, I've seen them, like, spoon in bed a few nights. But they don't have a language for that yet, of how to create new forms of touch that they're not getting. So I'm kind of watching that unfold here and thinking about all these kids. I mean, no, Lila, you started out talking about your elderly parents, and that's been, like, the lack of touch for olders has been really a big issue for so long. But I also think about the touch for our kids, and for adolescents in particular. I think younger kids we're much more comfortable touching them, and they're comfortable touching us. But adolescents it gets really awkward for everybody. And so I'm just, I'm thinking about those kids. I'm going to try and introduce some of these holds that you just showed us to them as well.
I'm so glad. Can you hear me? Oh, good. Yeah. Because everyone was frozen for me, so I was a little worried. Thank you so much, Jay. I think ending on the questions is perfect for this, because there's so much that we don't know and so much to be curious about. And I think these are exactly the questions that I want to be asking, and I want to be grokking on with you, or Brene Brown calls it rumbling. I want to be rumbling on those questions with you. You can still hear me, right? Okay, good. So I'll take us out of the live portion of this broadcast by saying, please subscribe. Next week's show, I believe, will be about what we can learn from intentional communities that will help our lockdown experience or quarantine experience. I've been sending out missives again. I've been doing some writing, And if you want to receive them, you can sign up on horizontalwithlila.com. Episode 105 is a little delayed, but it is coming tomorrow. It's the second part of my conversation with Ari and Jay. Ari's the author of Relationship Agreements, and Jay, her partner, is the creator of The Integrated Father. It's a really interesting episode that is so much about parenting and yet so much about humaning. It doesn't feel like an episode just about parenting. It's really fascinating. It's also about kink and all these other things. But that's coming out tomorrow. If you had tried to listen to the podcast and you're like, where are all the part twos? The part twos are on Patreon, patreon.com/horizontalwithlila. There should be a button somewhere here that says become a patron if you want to have access to all of those. And then I want to close with what I say at the end of almost every episode, which is, may you have someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. I love you. Thanks for watching the broadcast later on. And then I'll stick around and we'll chat, those of us who are still here.